Hello, good morning. We are here to talk about consistency. And so my hope is that this video is going to be short, sweet, and very direct and to the point. So I'm just going to hop right in and say hello to people as they drop in. So everything that I want to cover today, I want to cover why consistency feels so unbelievably elusive. Like, I know that if you struggle with consistency as you're coming in, even if you're watching the replay, just drop in a comment. Let me know why specifically consistency feels difficult to you. Like, what about it has been such a struggle? Sometimes when we think about it, we're like, man, I really can't even pinpoint why consistency is so difficult. I just know that it is. So if you can try to put that into words, do your best, put it into words. Let me know why consistency is so difficult to you, for you, and what maybe barriers come up for you, and hopefully I can address them very clearly today. So we are going to go through why consistency feels so elusive, how to master consistency, and then the mindset shifts that are going to support these changes that you're going to make for being able to have a consistent routine, hopefully to support lifelong weight loss. And so let's talk about the first reason why consistency feels so elusive, and that's because we have so many competing priorities in our life. And we constantly have to decide, okay, what's more important right now, this or that, this or that. And so it could be really hard for you to figure out what is an actual priority that you need to dedicate this moment's time and attention and energy towards. Sometimes that's like even skewed by our own emotions, by the environment, by what's going on in that moment. You know, like a piece of cheesecake doesn't really seem really exciting and appetizing at maybe 8 o'clock in the morning, but at 8 o'clock at night, after you've just had a delicious dinner and you're out at a restaurant, a piece of cheesecake might look different. And so it is so hard to figure out which things you're actually prioritizing. And I want you to keep that in the back of your mind, because I'm going to start building a list of things that can only be solved through planning. So that's my kind of mini spoiler alert, is that all of these things, the reasons why you're not consistent in your life is because you're not able to effectively manage all these different priorities and all these different things that I'm about to list. So we have priorities as a major barrier to why consistency feels elusive. And then we're going to talk about fear. Like, fear is probably one of the most powerful emotions in terms of making us change our behaviors or not change our behaviors. Like, a perfect example is children. Have you ever tried to take them to the dentist for the first time? And they're like, I don't want to go, I'm not opening my mouth, I'm freaking out. Like, they are so afraid of what potentially is gonna, like, of pain, which is really what children's motivator is, that it affects their behaviors. When normally if you're like, okay, kiddo, open up your mouth, they're like, ah, but as soon as you put them in a dentist chair, they're like, ah, they're like freaking out. So fear, along with other emotions, do cloud our ability to be able to make consistent decisions. Again, it is so hard to make consistent decisions. Therefore, every time we leave it up to a decision, we're leaving it up to these variables, like struggling to prioritize, the fear that we have. And so the fear that comes up with a lot of women in weight loss is, I'll never be able to do it. I've been seeing the scale go up for the last 5 to 10 years of my life. I've been powerless to control it. Maybe I controlled it when I was in my 20s, maybe in my 30s. I did a diet. I was really successful, but as soon as I stopped the diet, now I'm not successful. All of that history plays a role in the emotions and the fear that we show up with for our present day. And so we have priorities. We have fear. We have unrealistic goals. I could talk all day about unrealistic goals, but I think I want to challenge you to think about what is actually easy. So I do my habit guide with women almost every day of the week, it feels like now. And so I have had so many people where I'm like, okay, take a habit that you want to build and I want you to make it as small as possible. And so they're like, I have an exercise bike in my house and I want to start using it. So I want to do like 5 days a week. I'm going to do like 60 minutes. I could do that from 7 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock at night. Or maybe I'm going to do that from like 5 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the morning. And if I just set my alarm, like that'll be totally fine. And like, I'm like, that's not the smallest you can come up with. So then they're like, okay, what if I did it like 1 to 2 days a week. And I'm like, that is still not the smallest that you can come up with. I think when people have a habit of overextending or over anticipating their future motivation, but under anticipating their current motivation. I might get back to you and I might type in what the actual phrase is because that doesn't seem right. But basically what I'm trying to say is that you're over projecting what your motivation level is going to be, but like you're never going to be at that motivation level, nor could you like serendipitously hope that by tomorrow you're going to get to a motivation level that you're not at today. And so when I talk about unrealistic goals, what is actually easy isn't actually what you think it is. And so this habit that is 5 days a week, 60 minutes of exercise bike, which now turned into 2 days a week of 60 minutes exercise bike, is still struggling to be consistent because we have to go even smaller than what we think. The goals that we think are easy, if you're not consistently doing them, they're not easy then. And what happens is like we, especially as women, we internalize that failure as a failure of us, not a failure of the system that we built. And so when we're saying, okay, like this is easy, working out 2 days a week for 60 minutes, but it's not easy. You know, you've tried it. Like everything that goes into like, oh, now I gotta get on the bike, I gotta get my workout clothes on, I gotta get my water bottle. Oh, I really would so much rather do this other thing, or like my time would be better spent doing this. And like maybe the habit stays for a couple weeks and that's when all of a sudden you're making other decisions. And that's where the habit falls. We don't want to make decisions. We want to make plans. And I'm going to get into that in a minute when I talk about how to master consistency. But when you're setting a goal for yourself and we're building a habit to support that goal, I think you need to make that habit so much easier than you think it's going to be. So what has become a 5 day a week to a 2 day a week needs to become I'm going to put my sneakers on at noon 5 days a week. And if I exercise, like if I go for a walk or I go on my exercise bike or like whatever you're trying to build, and if you do that, that's amazing and that's great. But the habit that you're starting with is just putting your sneakers on and then feeling successful, because you have to develop like honestly baby steps, literally baby steps, just putting your sneakers on to get yourself to the place that habit is going to snowball and it's going to grow. And if you don't believe me, and you haven't mastered consistency, then you have no reason to not believe me, because I promise you it has to start so much smaller than what you think it does. And there is an entire science that is dedicated to habit building and everything that goes into that, behavior science, cognitive science, the science of change, all of that good stuff. And so when I tell you that it has to start so much smaller than you think it does, it does. So we've gone over why it feels elusive. We have competing priorities, we have emotions, we have unrealistic goals, and these are all the things that are making consistency feel so elusive. And so when we want to take that step to master it, I want you to pay attention to my golden rule. I am going to read it as is because I want to make sure it comes across exactly how I want it to. You cannot consistently make the same decision over and over again. Yep, let me say that again. You cannot consistently make the same decision over and over again. Even if the variables are the same, you can't control for every variable. These are the things that I just talked about, the competing priorities, your emotions, your goals, your habits. These are the things that are variables, and they make it difficult to be consistent. And so how do we combat that? We have to put ourselves in a situation where we're not making decisions, rather we're following a plan that we've created. And so the way that we get to control this is basically saying, create a time in your life where you're going to plan for things. And you're going to just take maybe like 10 minutes to 30 minutes to plan out maybe like your day or plan out your week. For me, I literally do it every day. Like I will on Monday write my Monday to-do list, and then at the end of Monday, I will write basically the hot topics that I want to get done on Tuesday, or like the things that are non-negotiable, or appointments, or gym sessions, and things like that I know are like in stone already in my schedule. And so by taking the time to plan, I don't have to worry about my emotions. I don't have to worry about priorities. I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm going to procrastinate or make the right decision or not make the right decision, because it's not a decision, it's a plan. And that also, the fact that it's a plan, saves me from internalizing any failure as my own. So let's say I'm trying to build this exercise plan habit, and I'm trying to, get to a point where I'm exercising 5 days a week consistently, and I have to build that up. I don't have to worry about all of the things that might potentially get in the way, or how I'm going to feel the next day or whatever, because it's already been in a plan. And that means that if I'm not feeling great on, let's say, Tuesday, and I skip it and I get my sneakers on, I call that a celebration. I take my sneakers off and I lay down in bed. I still participated in the habit. I still got to move forward without having to make it harder. You want it to be easy. In fact, you want it to feel easy. I don't know where this idea came from that it has to be hard. It can be hard. It will be hard. Naturally, you don't have to make it hard. The part that you're working on, you want to make it as easy as possible. Make it so that you literally cannot fail. Okay? So I basically am saying, in order to master consistency, you have to plan to master consistency. When I talk about goals, going back to that, think about it. It's not as easy as you think it's going to be. Make it way easy. Make it impossible for you to fail. So we've gone over why consistency feels elusive. Literally, the thing you have to do to master it is basically plan for it. And here are the places that I want you to start. Now that you understand the strategy is I have to plan for it. So, okay, what behaviors and interventions do I need to do that are going to support that goal that I now have for myself? So, number one, my habit guide that I have made for you guys is a really great place to start looking for new habits. It literally will take you 15 minutes, a pen and a paper. If you don't have a copy of it, DM me, DM Taryn, my setter, and she will get you everything that you need. Let me go over some other things. I have, so since we're planning, I'm going to give you some actual interventions. I want you to think about maybe using a productivity app. So there's Todoist. So it's all one word, Todoist, Todoist. That's a good one that I love. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. It's like Asana, ASANA, and that one actually merges with Slack. So if you're a business owner, you can have your to-do lists and then also coordinate them with other employees and things like that. If this is like all for your personal life, you're like, oh no, now I'm talking business, don't get too worried. You can use this as a personal person too. It's a free app and there's a paid version of it too. So we have productivity trackers, because when you have a goal that you're taking seriously, that you are planning for, we have to put in realistic interventions like productivity apps, habit trackers. So like literally Excel spreadsheets where you're like, okay, what's working for me? What's not working for me? It could be something as simple as like at the end of every night, you're taking 5 minutes to just be like, yeah, I did do the things that I said I was going to do. Or no, I didn't do the things I said I was going to do. What got in the way? What happened? And so that way you're like, again, taking that failure away from you, off of you, saying you're not the failure. The reason that you didn't do it, it doesn't mean that you're just like a horrible person that can never master consistency. It just means that, okay, the failure is inside the system, not inside me. What do I have to do to change the system? I have to take it more seriously. So in these habit trackers, you're going to have maybe an Excel spreadsheet. I cannot say that today. That's going to be tracking these things for you. And the reason why is so that it can encourage conversation where you're not becoming emotionally reactive and you're able to have effective communication with yourself to problem solve what are your own individual barriers to consistency. So we have time management apps as well, like Habitify or Habitica, which is a game one, which is really, really, really cool. I highly recommend that. I've done that one with a client before, and it's like a really cool, like, habit creation game. And, I could go on about this, but like when you take something and you turn it into a game and you make it fun, you incentivize yourself to want to participate more. I have a guide on that that's literally called How to Make weight loss fun so that it's consistent, so that it's sustainable, consistent, and lifelong. Those 3 words, can't guarantee what order they're in. But that's the name of the guide. And so I've talked about that, and that is a way more scientific, where I go in, you have a pen and paper and all sorts of stuff, but these are actionable things that you can start literally today to get you better at consistency. When you set this goal of I want to be consistent, you can't have it be a that would be nice goal, meaning like you're working on it when it's convenient or when you're able to make the decision, you're motivated to make the decision, but you're not working on it when you're not motivated and it's not convenient. That's not how this works. It has to be like, no, I am making this a priority. And remember, you cannot consistently plan to make the same decision over and over again, because you can't make the same decision over and over again with all these additional variables in play. So how do you ensure consistency? You don't make a decision, you plan, okay? And well, now that we've gone over what are the barriers to consistency, what do you need to be able to master it, even some places and some interventions that you can start. Now I want to talk about the mindset shifts that you have to make. So all that other stuff was really behavior focused. I hope you learned some things. I hope you're like, it kind of challenged your thinking about what consistency actually is. And now I want to turn it into the cognitive piece. So something that I bring up a lot of times is that the opposite of anxiety, is trust. And so if you're struggling with consistency, some of that is our emotions. Our emotions come into play. I talked about fear, but worry, anxiety, sadness, even avoiding emotions that we don't like worry and hurt and anger, the things that we do to protect ourselves from those emotions, all of those things are happening in a very unconscious level. And so in order to bring them to the surface and be able to deal with them in an effective way, we have to deploy trust and trust in the behaviors that you're doing to give you the outcome that you want. So just like I gave you those habit trackers, the goal is that you're going to have a bunch of data that you can look at and you can trust in the data. So when you're saying like, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to do this, you literally have 10 days worth of data where you actually are doing it. And that's what is fueling your belief, that trust that you are creating, because you don't go from not trusting yourself to like magically trusting yourself. And I have my clients deploy so many different self-talk techniques in order to develop that trust. But in the interim, we're gathering data, and our data allows us to put trust in that and therefore continue to be incentivized. If you're like, I don't know how I can do this, but then you're looking at 30 days worth of data, it's going to be so much easier for you to trust in your own abilities because you have that data to support you. Yeah, it takes a little while. We have to develop a habit to maybe support a behavior so that you can even get there. But the reality is that it is possible. It's just going to have to take an avenue that you've literally never taken before. That is the only difference. So the mindset shift that you have to make is that I am trying to build trust in myself. And the second mindset shift that you have to make is that you have to have a growth mindset. You have to believe that you are capable of growing, of achieving, of moving forward in the goals that you have. Like, yes, you can do all the behaviors you want, and yes, you can follow the playbook as precisely as you want, but if you don't have belief in yourself, you eventually will be stunted. Or you're just like, I don't know any other way to finish that. You need belief in yourself, because if you don't believe that you're capable, then you're basically just throwing spaghetti at the wall in hopes that like the things that you're doing are actually working together towards something. But the plan that I want to work you through is that you're building these habits in order to gather data, in order to foster and facilitate trust so that you can consistently do it, because it's not a decision, it's a habit. Okay? And that's where consistency comes from. So I hope that this has answered any question you could have ever had about consistency. If there is something about consistency that is still puzzling for you, or you have no idea, DM me, ask me, let me know. I am like the queen of consistency. I will whip your butt into shape no matter what. And I promise you that even if you've never mastered consistency in your entire life, you absolutely can. And some great places after this to start would be my habit guide and my other, which is my PDF, as well as a video accompaniment that I have with that, as well as another guide that I created, how to make weight loss fun so that it's sustainable, consistent, and lifelong. And that is much more sciencey as well, where I have you get out a pen and paper, and it's very fun for me. But I hope there are plenty of tools for you to master consistency. Don't hesitate to reach out, and I will see you the next time.